Hello, Frugal Force. Once again, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and today I want to discuss an article here. And I'm going to tell you up front, I'm going to discuss it a little bit differently than everybody else. I know this has been covered, but please bear with me here. Before we even jump into this article, I want to ask you, and I want you to think about this for a minute. What do you like about your characters that you read? Think about it. Why do you read them? What makes them interesting? Now, with that permeating in your mind, let's jump into this article. I'm going to cover some things that were discussed already, but I'm going to add a lot of additional type of content to it, so please bear with me. This article, posted by Joe Glass, December 21st, 2017. Yes, this is another one I'm discussing, a Joe Glass article. I didn't plan on doing that again, but man, Joe just has a tendency to really twist facts and not really tell the whole truth. So, or even close to it, and he makes up fiction. And his article's on the victims of the Marvel cancellation bloodbath. Yeah, that's a good catching title there. And true, yes, there was a lot of cancellations. Well, let's look. With the release of March 2018 solicits from Marvel, it fast became clear that a swath of titles were being canceled, and I agree with them. They were clear either from their complete absence from the solicits or their solicitation sounding very final, or even hints in the cover artwork. Since the speculation began, many of the titles that we speculated have received the chop have been confirmed, and even some that we hadn't come to speculate on yet. And then he goes into them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those. Books receiving their notice include Generation X. I can't really say much on this one. I have not read it. Gwenpool, which I actually thought was a pretty decent book, but I can understand why it might have only a limited time period appeal before it gets old. Luke Cage, and let me say this up front, I am a huge Luke Cage fan. Anybody watching my channel knows that, especially when he's buddied up with Iron Fist. Those two together are amazing. And I've read this, and I will say it never made me really want to go out and buy it, and that's the problem. It was always just meh. It was not bad, but it was never great. It was just meh. The story was okay. It digs into Luke Cage's history a little bit. It was all right, but the artwork really never sold it. It never gave it any action or anything to that. I mean, the artwork was pretty much from to cringe. And that's a shame, because this is a powerful, strong character, and he never came off as powerful or strong. Also, Marvel sort of swayed in how they've been writing Luke Cage in the last few years. They toned down his anger and things, and that's one of the things that makes him great. He's a spur of the moment. You know, he gets angry and he wears that on his sleeve, and that's what I think we like about him. He shows that raw emotion that he feels, and now he's just more of a calm guy, and that's not Luke Cage. So it was a little off the mark there too. So it really was like a C-grade book, just not enough there to keep your interest. Then there's Iceman, and Iceman was nothing but a one-note character, which is a shame because he's a great character, but instead they wanted to put all the attention on his sexual orientation, and I'm going to get into that in a broader perspective here in a little bit. But people want more than just that. So, they really focused on that. Like 90% of the book was always him and his sexual orientation. We want to see more than that. And then there was Hawkeye, just really not well-written kind of book, similar kind of situation. In America, which was just horrible, which is sad because it was a character in the Ultimates line and things that was actually pretty good and people were wanting to see more of. And it ended up being a character, it was so poorly written that people wanted it to end just so they quit, that Gabby Revere would stop butchering the character. So anyway, there's a reason. But here's where Joe Glass really starts missing the mark. For me, as I began to see the scale of books affected, one thing grew disturbingly clear. All the titles involved diversity and representation in either characters featured within, nearly all including leads that were female, people of color, or LGBTQ+, or another form of creator voices involved, again, largely women, people of color, or LGBTQ+. Now, there's part of the issue. Joe Glass, people like him tend to focus on just one aspect of things. That's the problem. The reason these books were canceled was because the sales were horrid. Okay? They were absolutely atrocious. I'm going to go back to this in just a little bit. Remember the first question I asked you? Why do you read about a character? So after starting the year with a massive bit of bad press that appeared through Marvel blamed declining sales upon diversity, which they did, which they missed the point completely, he mentions the backlash. So I want to continue on. When Marvel announced their Legacy initiative, returning to legacy numbering on issues, and returning to classic iterations of many characters, there was some concern this would mean Marvel would do away with more diverse modern characters that it had cultivated, like Miss Marvel, Thor, and the all-new Wolverine, etc. Now, first of all, Legacy Initiative had a lot of question marks because nobody believed Marvel anymore. Marvel lost its goodwill and its good faith in the customer base. People just don't believe them. And we didn't exactly even get that with Legacy still. Legacy and things really, it was just another numbering gimmick to get its temporary incline in sales. We didn't see a return to all of our classic characters. Sorry, it didn't happen. That's part of the problem. Marvel's been disingenuous, and you do that enough, and people are just not going to bite at it anymore. They're just saying, it's more crap of the same, just with a different number. So that was part of the issue. Yeah, some people may be worried a little bit about Miss Marvel, Thor, and the all-new Wolverine. Some of these characters do have a good potential if they were written decent, which Miss Marvel really hasn't been written that well. It gets supposedly all this critical acclaim. They bragged about sales, but you really look at the sales numbers, it was never that good. And if you actually read the books, were they really that good? Especially the very first volume of it really was a white bashing parade there. It was pretty horrendous. Maybe it picked up a little bit later on, and I think she's definitely a salvageable character. She's one of the better ones, I think, out of the group. So, definitely they could work with that. Same with She-Thor, but maybe change her name, because Thor Odinson, that's that guy's name. That was part of the big issue with that. And part of the instant turnoff of this is that Marvel was just trying to use established characters as an easy way of marketing. It was even almost blatantly admitted by Tom Brevoort that they can't get these characters to do well, so they're pumping them up on the backs of others by also diminishing them. So shame on them. Said, but also characters like Iceman, finally giving his own ongoing. That's the problem. We didn't get Iceman. We got a one-note Iceman. That's not what people wanted. They wanted Iceman, not, I'm gay Iceman. That's 90% of my book. We don't care that he's gay. We just want to know other things. We want to see other things. We don't want to read that he's gay constantly. Just like I don't want to read about a guy talking about he's hetero constantly or female. No, that doesn't make things interesting. But once again, I'll get back into that later. Okay, so he goes on. The Marvel Universe is sprawling from the day once, to show the world outside your window. No, actually, it is the world outside your window. If you look at the numbers by the diversity push in Marvel, you would think that these characters represent 90% of the world, and that's not even close. If you want to go with the actual statistical analysis, the world outside your window, would there be a lot less of these characters in? So shame on you, once again, for misrepresenting the truth. That is not a true statement. Anybody can look up diversity statistics, you will see that that is a bold-faced wrong comment. Okay? Now the world's more diverse than ever, true, and as more kinds of people are given representation and participation in various forms of media and walks of life. Yeah, absolutely. And I have nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. And I don't think most people do. I mean, yes, there are some racists and things out there, but I don't think there's nearly enough of them to tank this, this initiative. What's tanking it is poor writing. For example, why do we have to have a black person write a black character or a gay person write a gay character and things? Why did those have to be connected? They think that's the only way they could be understood? Because I tell you, these were not written well, so I don't believe that for a second. You need a good writer, not just somebody you found on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever that's spouting off things constantly. But now, here we are, facing the news that Marvel is doing away with a number of their diverse and new voices in these titles. Notably is removing the two leading LGBTQ characters from American Iceman. I'm sorry, how are they leading? America was tanking, and Iceman started tanking from the beginning. It's because this wasn't how he was originally. I think that was the biggest thing. You don't just all of a sudden become gay overnight like that. That turned a lot of people off of the book. It wasn't genuinely written from the start. If they slowly made him transition into that mentality and things, people probably would have bought it more and been fine with it. But instead, Marvel's all about jarring things, and people don't always like that. Now, this continues to go on and be, more fallacy, and just wrong statements. However, it seems hard to believe that Marvel would just generally get rid of diversity, and I agree, they probably won't. What they should do is, I've mentioned in other videos, use anchor characters to bring them in. Put them on teams and things to get people interested in learning about them before you launch their own titles. Use miniseries and things like the Robin series was. It had like 3 miniseries before they launched his own title to build up awareness and like for the character. It was very successful. Surely any basic PR person could see how that would look bad, or how it would look to markets that directly feel representation by these styles. No, actually, if a good PR person is going to realize that if you've used them as tokens long enough, it actually does the opposite. They want proper representation. Once again, it's a big difference. Quit pasting these people like that's all there is to them. After all, pretty much all these titles in question have been critically well received. Really? And enjoyed fervent fan bases. Really, these have all been really well received. By who? Because ultimately it is the market, the buying market, that tells you how well they're received, and these titles have not. That's once again a bold-faced lie. Just because a couple people on Bleeding Cool think it was, well, they enjoyed it, doesn't mean that that's good. It takes a lot more than that, and the market is telling you that. The market is the general indicator. The market is what you will know if it's well received or not some award-winning book that was judged by a bunch of people that are swayed by a particular persuasion. That's not well received. The market will only tell you that. The market will tell you the truth, and the truth is these were not well received. Gwenpool alone was given her own book pretty much solely for the fan reaction to the design of the character. Okay, and you know what though? Gwenpool was actually a pretty decent book. After all, Marvel is still putting out titles such as Miss Marvel and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, diverse representation titles for audiences sorely underrepresented in the medium. Well, these were some of the better books of them, and Moon Girl has a better potential also for trade paperback with things like Scholastic. Even with that said, though, it is not selling that well. Okay? Marvel, as well as some of the creators affected, have put it down to sales. Yes, because that's what it is. That is it. It is about sales. Ultimately, it's a business. That's how it works. Now, here's where it lies even compound even more, and things get a little more suspect. It should be noted that these figures are, at best, estimates and not concrete definitive sales. True, that's shipments, which means they actually sold less than this. So, not a good thing to try to use as a twist there. If people actually know how the industry works, they don't sell every copy shipped, so they sold less. Ooh, ouch. Certainly all these titles regularly do not sell anywhere near the amounts that a title such as Avengers or even X-Men Gold does, and certainly not ASM. Well, ASM hasn't been doing that good either. These have not been doing that great, and partly, once again, because of poor writing. But of course they wouldn't, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't compare a fourth tier or a new character that needs time to build to a well-established character. That isn't fair, just for the record. Okay? And you shouldn't. And then Marvel wouldn't expect that, and they shouldn't. And then it says, as nice as I'm sure that would be, they'd be widely delusional of Marvel's part, to compare them. That I agree. After all, these titles have long established hardcore collectors. I agree with him there. Okay, that's a very good point. Now, but here's where he gets off on untruth again. But that's not to say that the sales on these titles was bad. Month by month, the majority fell within the region of 10 to 15,000 copies. Okay, first of all, that is bad. 10 to 15,000 copies is bad. That's a scrappable book right there. That's garbage. Okay? That's a mistake right there. So saying, oh, we expect bad sales and we're going to put up with bad sales is not what you want. Think about this. This is how business works. Okay? You have a cost. Okay? And anytime you spend your dollars on something, you're forgiving, you're losing the opportunity to get something else. We call that opportunity cost. So are you going to be investing X amount of dollars into something that's going to sell you 10,000 units, or are you going to spend that same amount of dollars on something that's going to sell 50,000 units? You're going to do the one that gives you the better return. It's called business. Joe Glass doesn't understand business. On top of that, look at the numbers. You can go to Comic-Con yourself. Somebody even posted that in the comments here. Maybe I'll throw that real quick. They're not even hitting that. So this isn't even the majority fell in that region. That's not true either. Okay, so that is not reasonable. So looking across Marvel's lines, this often puts them on par with continuing titles like Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Yeah, which is not selling good. So let's compare a book on how bad it's doing by a book that's not selling good. That's not how a business survives. If you want to compare everything to your lowest successful product, you're going to go out of business probably. Moreover, this has put that generally only a few thousand copies below Miss Marvel in general. Yeah, that's really bad. Okay, during Marvel's legacy and initiative, including the lenticular covers, which gave them a bump. If you looked at some of my videos, I did one with the Comic Chemist, and we looked at that, and that did give them a bump. Marvel's entire line saw a massive boost in sales. Yes, because of the lenticular covers. That's it. That's a gimmick. It didn't stay. Okay. Unfortunately, through such a move is not viable in the long term. Yes, he gets that. I give him credit there. So how is this their LGBTQ plus friendly, POC focused, or female-led titles being ended when others, even as much part of the representation diversity, are to continue? It's because of sales. They don't have a good outlook. When you do sales, you also look at your projected future. And should you keep pumping money into that, or should you put it into something else? It needs to be put into something else. When your books are not selling well, and it's probably costing you money, or there's money that could be a lot better money that could be made for that, you don't put it in the low one. So here, let's take a simple example. Let's say you have a 401k and it's invested in several funds. You have one fund that's getting you a 2% return annually. Okay? And you have another fund that's giving you a 15% annual return. Which one are you going to be putting your money in? Do you want to continue to get 2% or do you want to get a 15% APR? Right? It's pretty simplistic. Doesn't matter how much. So then he goes on about this classic. I already mentioned that. Okay? And then he goes, however, with these titles, most have not even had their first volume trade out for long. Well, yeah, because there's no point. They're not selling. They're not selling on trade either. It's not going to get a big bump. Okay? So that's a big mistake there. In that respect, it would surely require time in the release of the first volume trade to see if trade sales can be the saving grace. No. When sales were so horrific and the output, and they know that, they do actually check and pay attention to the public, even if they don't make changes based on it. And currently right now, it's hard to miss. With the public such a big outcry of how bad these books are, it's not going to sell good. Okay? There's no argument against the fact that these titles were among some of the lower selling titles of Marvel's lineup. Wait a minute here. Okay, so you just sat there and said we should do them, but now you're saying they're lower ones. Wake up, that's business. But they were not the lowest. And there certainly shouldn't be any expectation to say solo Luke Cage title would sell well as a Defenders title, or Hawkeye would sell as well as Avengers. Actually, most of them were their lowest. They were terrible sales. Oh, ridiculous. It's also worth considering these titles canceled against those that have still survived. Yeah, sometimes they'll keep a title for a little longer because they have plans on changing them and retooling them, and they think they can increase their sales. If they think they can't, they're going to cancel it or maybe shelf it for a little while on the shelf and then bring it out later when they think they can. So this wasn't just some let's cancel diversity. This is garbage and it's not working. If titles like Iceman, Luke Cage, America, and the rest are selling roughly the same or better than even classic characters like Daredevil, Old Man Logan, they're not selling better. Okay, well, that's just throwing in there to try to confuse people. Then why is it that these titles face the chop or the following white, cis, hetero male characters? And there it is right there, the little twist. Ultimately, it's not that the books aren't selling well. It's he has a thing against anything canceled that is white cis male. Now you tell me who is the racist, homophobe, or whatever when that's all these people focus on. They like Joe Glass focuses on everything but the data. This is a business. It's based on business and earning income, not agendas. That's not how a business stays afloat. That's why they were canceled. But all he can focus on is white people. What's the problem here? That's up to you to think. It's a bad look, as I say. Yeah, it's a bad look because you don't want to admit it. It's the truth. And in media, as any half-competent PR person will tell you, looks are everything. Well, and one reason probably Miss America is staying around is they've pumped so much hype into Miss America. They might actually get some good backlash off that if it was canceled, or they'll have to really eat crow. Or maybe they feel that she's one of them that they can dig up and make good. And I think so. She's definitely possible. Miles Morales is another one. He was great before they put him into the mainstay universe, and then his book really went downhill. With Marvel deciding to release Avengers 4 times a month and gearing up for a massive event, now think about it. It makes sense. You use what you have that marketing for. You're going to keep getting that. Even though Avengers isn't doing well, partially because it doesn't match really what people's expectations are of it. All right, so it says it seems that their commitment to diversity is ultimately trumped by the commitment to the almighty dollar only. Wait a minute. It's a business. That's what you do. If you don't get money, you don't put out the product. This is not a charity. Get that right, Joe Glass. If the characters sell, you keep them. If not, you change, you modify, you cancel, you rework. Businesses put out a product that fails. They don't keep putting it out. Look at Coca-Cola. They did New Coke. How did that go? It failed horrendously. Did they just keep putting it out? No, they brought out Classic Coke right away, and brought back what people wanted. Joe Glass doesn't seem to understand this. He's very ignorant on business. And if this marketing is a singular audience and publishing the same title, multiple titles, then so be it. Well, that's not how it works. You have to build people's desire for these things and build a product they want. And ultimately, the product isn't what they want. It's not that they don't have potential. They do. But we need a better product. We need good, competent writing, good art. And Marvel already stated in the past they really didn't give a crap about art, and it shows. That's one of the problems with the books. This is, of course, hyperbole, and as unlikely as simple as it is that there's undoubtedly more to it. Yes. So he just spouted off all this bull crap and then says, well, and puts a line, oh, but there might be a little bit more to it. Yeah. Shame on you. But it's how it looks, especially to those queer, POC, and female audiences that have just seen creators like them have their titles ended and characters like them vanish from the limelight yet again. I have newsflash. For most of the people I've talked to, and that's quite a few, it's not how they look or what their sexual orientation is. That is not why we read a character. And that's what I'm going to continue on in the video here in a moment. Personally, I hope Marvel will replace these titles with equally diverse and representative titles and creators and push them even further. You know what I just hope? I just hope they put good characters out and good writers and artists. I don't care anything else what their diversity orientation is. I want a good product. That's what business focus on. But notice that with this, that's all he is focused on. Who is the real racist, homophobe person here? I hope, but for now, audiences such as myself, which are not much, and if we have an audience like that, it's so little because if they were that big, these books would be selling good. Are left feeling yet again shunned. Well, you know, there's not many people here to shun, clearly. All right. And in the comments section, he gets lambasted. I mean, people tore him up, and you know what? He 100% deserves it because this article was another just bullcrap article that really, once again, as usual, had no facts. People were just telling him, that the titles were bad, and that's why. So how many people have to tell you this before you get it through your skull that not everybody cares just about somebody's sexual orientation or gender? People have a lot more to them than that. Massive amounts more to them than that. I mean, look at all these comments, and there's some in support of him, okay, just for the record, but most are bad. Now, so let's look at this person. Craig, I'm going to call you out here for good things. He says, November sales figures. Luke Cage. Remember, he said before 10 to 15,000, right? Luke Cage, 11,949. He's one of them I said I actually liked, that I thought was okay. Okay. And look, it says, I don't know what planet you have to be on to believe that Luke Cage legit outsold Old Man Logan in any month that didn't feature over orders and a stunt cover. Absolutely. Old Man Logan is much more popular than Luke Cage, though I'm a huge Luke Cage fan. Okay, I bought that over Old Man Logan. I'm one of those. But good point. America, 8,360. Once again, these are not actual sold off the shelves. These are pushed on to comic shops, and some of them were overshipped. Iceman, 12,677. Gwenpool, 14,499. Champions, 21,000. Generation X, double shipped in November, with only 13,531. Hawkeye, 12,113. Once again, these are failure numbers. These are not respectable shipping numbers at Marvel. Okay, and then he puts that, and that's a very good point. This is garbage shipping. This has nothing to do with gender. This has purely to do with sales. So next thing I want to point us to is at the very beginning I asked you a question. Why do you read a character? Okay? And I want you to think about this. We're going to jump here to Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. Okay? Let's look at this. This shows our motivational progress up to the pyramid from the broadest, most fundamental biological needs to the higher order ones that we have. And as human beings, we bounce up and down. Okay? We do. We don't just stay at one of these things. And that's my point. These Marvel characters are all pinpointed at one thing. One note. I'm gay. I am this race. Once again, most people don't care about that. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, we will read it as long as it's good. We don't care what their sexual orientation or race is. Some people do. I don't. Now, we might care if they have a long history of 50 years being hetero and all of a sudden on a drop of a dime they turn gay, which makes no sense. It makes us question the whole history that we read. Sure. But otherwise, we don't care. So you look, breathing, at the very bottom, our physiological, breathing, food, water, sex, sleep. These are basic fundamentals, and some characters will be in that. And then you'll see them maybe move up to the next one. Security, employment, resources. So we can have some stories about them getting employment, their resources, morality issues, their family issues, their health issues, property issues. There's so many things we could write into a character. Then we can write about their love life, their friendship, family, intimacy things that they have. Then there is self-esteem. We used to get that a lot in Miss Marvel, which is now Captain Marvel. Confidence issues, achievement issues. Are you reaching their goals? Are they unhappy with what they've done? Respecting to others, being put in situations that challenge, how do I make one person happy and still keep the respect of somebody else? And then self-actualization. where they're hitting the pinnacle of self-fulfillment. They're proud of themselves, which then sets up the comic book for the next fall. Or if they're in a loving relationship, have something happen to that relationship, which drops them down. But instead of bouncing around these needs and things that people have, all we get is one note for 20 issues straight of, I'm gay, guys. I'm gay. Or I'm this, religion or whatever it is. That's the problem. We're getting one-dimensional characters when we should be getting characters that bounce all over the needs spectrum, dealing with all kinds of issues. There's so many things you could fluctuate and add and put into it. Heck, give a character an eating disorder or something temporarily. There's all kinds of things that they can deal with. We don't have to have one-note characters. Go into the roots of their emotions. Go into their goals, looking back over their history. Are they happy with themselves, proud of themselves? The neurosis and all the weird, interesting things that make humans interesting. Heck, you could do a story about one going grocery shopping and make it interesting if you wrote them like a real character. There are so many things, depending also at the life cycle potential area that you're at in your life. So maybe the character is an adolescent. We could have issues with development, moral cognitive development, distinguishing right and wrong as they grow, dealing with gaining particular different religion ideas and things, needs for achievement, power, affiliation with others, things like that. But no, we don't get that. How about adulthood, physical development, peak health, social development, marriage, children? Oh, there's my little guest there, my American Dream. Guys, I'm recording. Nice to see you. The later years of growing old with some characters, maybe. Physical changes, adulthood, aging body, social world around them, adulthood. There's so many things that can be added in a character, and we get one note, and they wonder why we don't like it. That's why that's the problem, Joe. Not your one-sided tunnel vision view. You are wrong. So, guys, I know I got a little excited there. And I'm not mad, though. So I challenge you, Joe, if you're watching this, because you watched my last ones and complained about it, to really think about that. Think about your one-sided view. Maybe there's more to the picture than you're thinking, and you need to consider more. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think I'm right about this, or am I wrong? Do people really care about that stuff, and I'm just completely backwards and don't know what I'm talking about? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell, and keep an eye out. I'm hoping to early next year start a Patreon finally. People keep pushing me to do it, and I don't want to do ad revenue on YouTube. I just don't. Okay? So until next time, guys, keep it frugal.